and welcome back to 100 Days of Magic. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you in the crossroads of magic and mastery to spend the next, 90 days now, talking about magic and all of its forms, especially how you can make your life more magical. What does that mean? Well, that means being able to walk through your days feeling like you are co-creating your world with the spiritual forces all around us. That you feel plugged into spirit, you feel like you have some agency, some ability to shape what happens around you, even if that shaping is just shaping your own internal experience of life, the universe, and everything. My name is Donna Woodwell. I am the owner of the Crossroads of Magic and Mastery, as well as Magic School, where I house all kinds of yummy things for you to use to set the habits and the training in your life to make sure you can stay in that centered, plugged in place with spirit. But I'm here today to talk to you about the next stage of our journey. So if you're here, make sure you type something into the chat window so I can see that I'm talking to you. Hello, Boris. I know I'm at least talking to one person, so that's epically awesome. Thank you for coming today. We are 1 week into our journey. We have spent the last 7 days talking about basic terms, basic overview, so that I make sure that we're all on the same page, more or less, before we take this journey together. Hello, Jackie. Hello, Anna. It's nice to see you here. So what have we learned over the last 7 days? Well, we have talked about, I have my handy dandy board here so I can make some notes. We have talked about the vertical dimension. That we as humans, when we want to interact with spirit, talk about plugging into this vertical dimension of our experience. We are down here having our human thoughts, day-to-day stuff moving around. But if we want to feel like we're open, plugged in, and have purpose, the meaning comes from our connection to spirit. And this is the spiritual dimension. Spirit, however, doesn't just poof down here. It's a continuing process where the one over various emanations becomes the many. So you can think of it as a moving back and forth in a sinuous way to create all the fun things that we have down in our world today. So let me ask you a question. What does this image remind you of? Straight line in the middle, going back and forth in polarity. I know there's some of you here. You can type in the answer. Must remind you of something. A symbol that we see in magic all the time. I can fill in the blanks for you. It is the staff that Mercury carries around called the caduceus. It's one of the oldest representations in the West. There you go. Anna says it. The magical staff of being able to walk between the worlds is a literal image of the Western's view of how creation occurs. And Mercury is the one who holds it because Mercury is the guide that helps you move between these worlds and also helps you to learn how to unlock your creative magic. No surprise, he's also associated as the guide in charge of both magic and astrology. It's kind of our patron saint, if you will, patron god in the Western world for all things magical. And that concludes all of the images that fit into the category of what Mercury does as a psychopomp. So Mercury, Hermes, in the Egyptian tradition, that's Thoth. Also, all the female goddesses of the crossroads, such as Hecate, and all those who walk between. Okay? So, in this next step, we're going to begin to take baby steps on what it means to walk between. Right now, we've been talking about theory and how we experience with this basic theoretical level of what we're working on, recognizing that we are divine and we are projections of the divine. And what keeps us from feeling our full divine capacity is simply the stuff that we have in our heads making noise. And once we recognize that there is no difference between us and all of the divine, except our messed up perceptions, our egos need to be in charge of everything and therefore can't connect to something bigger, we recognize that we have some say over changing that reality. And so that's what we're going to talk about. How? I used to ask one of my magical teachers this all the time. I'm like, I get what you're saying. I understand it from a theoretical basis. But how do I do that? How do I feel like I am not locked into my head in a room that's dark with no windows and no doors, and I don't know how to get out when I know there's something else out there? So that's what we're going to talk about over the next week. How you can begin to realize, to get out of the prison that you have created for yourself. And the good news for all of you, doesn't require anything other than you and your imagination. And a little bit of know-how, but you and your imagination have all the tools you need to change your entire world. So the leap of faith that we all start with is that we have the capacity to do this. So you have to believe that it's possible as we get started. All right? So today we're going to talk about magic, the imagination, and altered states of awareness. And we mentioned earlier, your imagination is the place that is collecting all of the information from your physical senses, from your thoughts, from your emotions, even from your unconscious baggage that you carry around, and other sources are all flowing into your imagination, which is creating your image of reality. When you realize that the image you're creating of reality is just that, it's an image. It's real in the sense that, if someone walks up to you and you notice it and you punch them in the face, they notice that too. It's real. It's not completely an illusion, but it is a reality that you have an incredible amount of say over how you experience it. And once you accept that, you can begin to take a more active role in shaping the way you feel about things, so that you are no longer at the mercy of your thoughts. You don't feel like they're just flying through your head and you have nothing to say about it. You're no longer at the mercy of your emotions, that they're just happening. You realize how they happen and how you can change them. You're not even at the complete mercy of your physical body. You have so much say over what happens. Not infinite say. We are still having limited physical experiences, but a lot more say than a lot of people might give themselves credit for. So, the first step in this process is recognizing how to begin to access the imagination. In the Western world, many people have been taught since they were very small children, oh, it's just your imagination, ignore that. Or stop daydreaming, stop dreaming, and start dealing with what really is. What really is. All of these kinds of negative connotations that imagination is something that is less than logic, is less than reality, and not the tool that is actually shaping your perceptions of reality. So you have to accept that. And then understand that we all tap into our imagination every day when we fall asleep and dream. We are always dreaming. Every night, even if you don't remember them, we are having the dreams. Our minds are generating a three-dimensional reality for us to inhabit apart from our conscious direction unless we've learned how to do some lucid dreaming, which is easy to learn once you understand the principles. Just takes practice. And so if you doubt you have the capacity to visualize, to hear things, to feel things, and create them inside of your head, all you have to do is recognize you dream every day and you're already doing it. So you can't tell me you are not capable because you are already doing it. You just have to learn how to do it consciously. It's not that you're not able, it's just that you don't have all the wires plugged in the right places. And you 100% can do that because you already are. So believe these things and then begin to realize, okay, if I'm doing it while I'm dreaming, how can I access that state of mind that I'm in when I'm dreaming, when I'm consciously awake? And now you're starting to ask the right question. We have to walk back from what state of mind are we in when we are dreaming versus when we are awake. There's this in-between stage, which in the psychological hypnotherapy world they call hypnagogia. Hypnagogia, which is just the space between being awake and being asleep. Hypnos was the Greek god of sleep. Okay? So what qualifies the state between awake and sleep? We are super, super relaxed, and yet our minds are super open to our imagination, our subconscious, all those image generators that are in our heads. So if we want to learn to enter this space consciously, what we need to do is learn how to super, super relax and then allow that state of mind to open to the imagination. And there's several different ways that we can go about doing this. Hypnosis or self-hypnosis and meditation are the gold standard of learning how to do this for yourself. And the corollary of learning how to be awake while you're falling asleep is basically what the practice of the Tibetan Yoga Nidra is based on. For most people in the West, because we are by nature hyper control freaks, I have met so many control freaks in the Western world, I no longer feel guilty about my own control freakish tendencies. When we don't feel like we are in control, we panic, we freak out because we're afraid of the dark. We're afraid of what we don't understand. And we don't realize that we are already like little corks bobbing along in this huge field of the dark that we are not aware of. And because of that, it can be difficult as people in the West begin to take their first steps on this path. But it really does start with learning how to relax. And learning how to relax from the beginning is simple as closing your eyes. Closing your eyes and imagine that you are relaxing. We're already using our imagination. Progressive relaxation has to do with imagining that each part of your body is relaxing one at a time. So you're like relaxing your jaw, relaxing your neck, relaxing your shoulders, usually in stages. You can also imagine a wave of relaxation washing through you. You can just breathe and follow your breath. And it doesn't mean that you have to control every thought that's going through your head. It just means you have to focus on the body and allow it to tone its level of activity down a few notches. There's all kinds of science behind this these days. People have put meditators in MRI machines. They have tracked brain waves. If you want a scientific explanation, feel free to go on the internet. You will find one. But basically, it comes down to, in our waking, logical minds, we are predominated by a certain brainwave frequency called beta waves. When we are in a creative, dreamy state, more alpha waves are going on. When we get down into those ceremonial shamanic states between waking and sleeping, there's more theta waves going on. When we're actually dead asleep, more delta waves are going on. And when we're in super conscious, highly meditative states, there's more gamma waves going on. But all of these states, all of these waves exist simultaneously all the time. So the waves that are going on when we're sleeping are also present when we're awake. So when you get good at it, you begin to learn how to shift between these states of mind at will, because you have learned how to navigate the terrain. And I promise you, all it takes is practice. Some people require more practice than others. This is true. We are all different. We're all in different states. If I had to learn how to, I don't know, bowl, I am sure I would need a lot more practice than people who are naturals at it, because I tend to let go of the ball and it flies the wrong direction. But you can do it a little bit at a time, recognizing that it's possible, learning how to relax, and tap into deeper states of awareness. And there are so many reasons you want to do this, not just because over time it will empower your magic, not just because over time it will make you more psychic. It will also help you reduce your stress levels, feel like you are in more control of what happens to you, you have more agency, you are less reactive. Heck, you will live longer. You will reduce your blood pressure. Some scientists have gotten to the point where they realize there are so many benefits to learning how to work with altered states of awareness, whether it's meditation or dream work or however else you want to get there, that not only does it work better than any drugs that we come up with and any antidepressants in the long-term psychic health of humanity, it's almost to the point where if we aren't teaching our children how to do this, are we negligent and causing them long-term harm in the world? Because the benefits are so enormous for us personally, for us as a society, and for our ability to work with magic. And the thunder just started going off. I guess we're having some storms run through. I always like it when the universe responds in dramatic ways. So if you want to commit to the magical practice and you want to be more than just a scholar of magic, at some point in time you have to recognize that you will be putting yourself into the equation. And to put yourself in the equation means learning how to work with your various states of awareness. All right? And it starts with relaxing. So if you want to get some homework for today, I would highly recommend you just tune into yourself, close your eyes, and see what state you're in. Do you feel stressed and anxious? Or do you feel kind of, I'm in a good place? Or somewhere in between? No state is wrong. Wherever you are, that's where you are. But you have to acknowledge where you start to decide where you want to go next. So I ask you to be honest with yourself. Are you curious about what is possible? Because if you are, then come back tomorrow. We're going to talk about our spirit bodies, generally speaking, how they work, how we can tune into them, and how we can use them as a vehicle for our deeper magical explorations. All right? So if you've got any questions and you happen to be here live, feel free to chime in. I will answer them. In the meantime, if you are enjoying this series, please like and share. It's always useful to other people in your life who you find might need this information, might want this information, to just send a like on right below the video and click the share button. This is a public group, so all videos, audios, blog posts, pictures, all of that can be shared to other groups. And when you post here, that means other people can also share your work. It's a completely open place. Okay, Jackie says, oh my God, I used to live in my imagination, such a magical place. Well, excellent. If anyone who lives in their imagination, especially as a child, is a natural, once they recognize how important the imagination is, at being able to use it as a tool for their own magical practice. There is a very fine line between the artists and the magicians of the world. In fact, I would say there's no line between the artists and the magicians of the world, only perhaps that they actually recognize what they're doing if they start calling it magic. But many of the people who, like William Yeats, the famous poet, was one of the founding members of the Golden Dawn. So it is not uncommon for there to be a lot of crossover between the two. Okay? All right. It was my pleasure to talk to you all today. I'm glad you stayed till the end of this video. If you have any comments, questions, anything else that you would like to talk about on the topic of the imagination that we brought up today, please feel free to put them in the comments after the video is over, and I will get back to you, or you can continue a conversation with the other people who have watched the video, and we can all learn together. So until tomorrow, when we talk about the spirit body, I am Donna Woodwell. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you then.